There comes a point in every career where your individual capability just hits a wall. Your skills, your drive, your performance, they can take you incredibly far, but they can't take you all the way. And what I've learned is that success beyond that point, well, it revealed something I really didn't see coming. It's almost never a solo achievement. More often than not, it's built on an architecture of support that we don't always notice until we take a moment to look back. So let's unpack how that realization came to be. This quote from St. Francis of Assisi is the perfect frame for this whole story. It's really about how a series of small, practical steps, not some grand plan, can lead to outcomes that once seemed completely out of reach. So when I started my professional journey, I had this really firm, very personal conviction. It was a stance I'd built from what I'd observed, what I'd experienced, and a deep sense of responsibility to my home. And my position, it was absolute. I told myself, point blank, I would not become an overseas Filipino worker. I was completely committed to building my career in the Philippines. I really believed that my skills should be used to benefit my own country. This wasn't just a preference, it was a core piece of my professional identity. And look, this wasn't some emotional whim. It was a decision based on data. I'd seen the hardships firsthand with my own aunt. I was acutely aware of the stories of exploitation, and as a certified public accountant, I truly believed I had what it took to be self-sufficient and to support my family without ever having to leave. The whole rationale felt logical and honestly protective. But you know how it is. No matter how well-reasoned your conviction is, eventually it runs up against the undeniable force of reality. And for me, that reality started to apply this quiet but very persistent pressure. This really shows the tension, doesn't it? On one side, you have my belief, my plan, that I could provide for my family right there in the Philippines. But on the other side, you have the hard fact of my mother's debt from our schooling. It was a weight that my salary at home just couldn't lift fast enough. My internal plan was simply no match for the external facts. And this is a really crucial point. The decision to start looking for work abroad, it wasn't a sudden burst of ambition or a change of heart. It was just a pragmatic response to a very real problem. It was the necessary move, not the one I had wanted to make. So what happened next taught me a really fundamental lesson. The move from the Philippines to Bermuda, it wasn't a single action that I took on my own. It turned out to be a whole sequence of interconnected events, only made possible by a network of people who, together, created a path for me where one just didn't exist before. When you look at these steps, what's so interesting is how they break down what felt completely impossible. I mean, $2,000 for a plane ticket, that was an insurmountable barrier. But then Auntie Emily provided the loan. Okay, but we didn't have a US dollar account to even receive it. Then Ma'am Ramirez offered hers. I had zero contacts in Bermuda. Then Ate Ivy gave me guidance. Each step was a distinct problem, and each one was solved by a different person. It was a chain of human support. And that's really the core of it, right there. My own individual effort had reached its absolute limit. I had the job offer, sure, but I simply couldn't get there by myself. It was the collective effort of these other people, each one contributing a small but critical piece, that made the whole thing possible. Going through this completely shifted my understanding of what career progression even is. It stopped being a story about individual will and became a lesson in strategic interdependence. And that experience gave me some pretty critical insights. So the first thing I realized was this. Your own drive, your ambition, it's essential, of course, but it's also fragile. It's actually the community around you that carries and protects that ambition, especially when you're going through periods of uncertainty or facing what feels impossible. They're the ones who provide resources when your own run low. The second insight? Having a support network completely changes the game. It takes what feels like a personal struggle and turns it into a shared challenge. And when others step in to help, your own resilience just multiplies. Your capacity to endure and overcome obstacles grows exponentially. And I think the ultimate takeaway is this. Those really significant career moves, the kind that change your entire trajectory, they're almost never a solo act. The whole myth of the self-made person, it often just hides the critical network of support that made their success possible in the first place. So if we think about the pawn to queen framework, this whole story is a powerful lesson in what we call the strategic positioning stage. It's about realizing that your network isn't just for finding your next opportunity. It's for building the foundational support that makes seizing that opportunity even possible. All of this experience, it leaves me with one final and I think confronting question. It's one I believe is critical for any leader trying to navigate their own path forward. Just think about that for a second. In what area of your professional life are you still operating as if it's all on your shoulders? Where have you hit a limit? And maybe you're thinking it's a failure of your own capability, when it might just be a sign that you need to build your own architecture of support.